Mr. Speaker, this bill that came up for consolidation yesterday was to see a way of using what we have in the country known as cannabis for medicinal purposes, nothing more than that. And we are trying to amend the NDLA Act to give extra powers to the NDLA to ensure if it comes to approval or withdrawal of licenses, that it borders under the confines of the NDLA, so that we avoid people planting here and there and monitoring being so difficult. That is the summary of this bill, to amend the existing act to enable NDLA have the sole power of approving or withdrawing licenses for cannabis made for medicinal purposes. Because, Mr. Speaker, as you know, most Nigerians are in need of this product and they are going overseas to receive it. And we are living in denial because we go outside and we import it in medicinal form to treat cancer in Germany, in Australia, in the United States and other parts of the world. But we have it here, we can make use of it as a medicinal, put into medicinal use of it here in Nigeria, instead of heading outside all the time to source for this particular product. So this is all about, it's not forming a new commission, it's not trying to establish new agency, it's increasing the powers of the NDLA so that they can always monitor issues around this particular product, especially, Mr. Speaker, for medicinal use. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, my position is predicated upon the agreement and treaty signed by Nigeria on the ban of cannabis. Mr. Speaker, with your wisdom and the authority of this Honorable House, you made me Chairman, House Committee on Treaty, Protocol and Agreement. And it's upon this premise I bring a good news to you that Nigeria is a signatory to the bans on cannabis. That is one. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the proposal of this bill lay claim to certain sensitive issues that it cannot even authenticate on the authority of his argument. The authority that cannabis, remember, 3 months ago, the chairman of that particular agency said that Nigeria should be examined, political office holder should be examined on drugs. Now, every 10 Nigeria, you have 5 that have been injured by drugs. That's what he said 3 months ago, before the election. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, a research has not been conducted authoritatively in this country to satisfy that cannabis can cure cancer. No research in Nigeria has authenticated that. Mr. Speaker, you agree that in Delta State, a lot of people have been arrested, even my federal constituency, on this issue. So I am fit enough to tell you the number of people that have been derailed by cannabis. Because my local government is also part of it, Mr. Speaker, and I know how it has damaged people in that society. To talk about giving authority to an agency that have said that cannabis was banned and cannabis, Nigeria should be examined, political office holder should be examined on issues of cannabis. And we are coming here to come and legislate upon it. Mr. Speaker, before we transfer policy into a drafting aspect to become a law, Mr. Speaker, it should be well debated. In Switzerland, I take a very example in Switzerland, they have hybrid parliamentary system. In Switzerland, laws are generated from bottom-top approach. Then there are certain sensitive laws that have a foundation of that country that's supposed to be generated from the bottom-top approach. Mr. Speaker, this is one of the issues that can be generated from the bottom-top approach instead of top-bottom approach. Why do I say so? It's a national issue. Because we're talking of drug. A common drug which is called mpurumiri in the east is now ravaging that place. And we're talking about introducing another issue. Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, I urge my good brother, Honorable Ben Carlo, whom I know as a very good legislator to reconsider and step this matter for now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What you are talking about is a conflict of laws. Which one takes preeminence? If there is a Nigerian statute that contradicts a treaty, that's conflict of laws. And there's a whole body of case law that deals with this subject matter, where there's a conflict in our laws and a treaty. Which one takes preeminence?
When a treaty has been domesticated by Parliament, it becomes a full law, both internal and external. And making natural law, you have to amend the already one you have also authenticated based on Section 12 of our Constitution. Based on Section 12, the treaty was laid before this House. So it became an act of National Assembly because it has been domesticated. So when you to generate another law, it brings a clash of laws. And I don't expect the Ninth Assembly to be able to go against the law that I have authenticated, that have already passed. Because when a treaty is brought and domesticated, it becomes an internal law. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, Supreme Court has held on one of the issues of treaty. Supreme Court held that as long as it involves fundamental human rights, that is legal, even when it has not been domesticated. Even when it has not been domesticated. It's a recent ruling, Mr. Speaker.
Please furnish the House with that ruling.
Thank you.
That's number one. You wrote on the Kyoto Protocol. What did America do when it did not suit their own? Even if you say it's a law, if a law comes subsequent
you
to
repeat
another
the former.
law.
You repeat the former.
No. In interpretation of laws and conflict of laws, if one comes after the last in time, it is deemed by the court that you were aware of the first one. That you were aware, you took legislative notice. You took legislative notice of the first one, but still went ahead and passed the second one because you wanted to abrogate the first one.
Yeah, you repeat.
So that's I think is the position.
Yeah, but this is not the position.
But having said that,
it's not repealing.
On your second point,
yeah,
you said that there were no. We're going to open this up for debate, but I just wanted to address the issue. You said that there was no proven scientific research, empirical evidence as to what.
Yeah, by Nigerian scientists. Yeah.
Okay, but don't you think that should come up? I mean, it's a good time to bring it up, but because of this issue, and it's important, shouldn't that be an issue at the public hearing where experts? You're not an expert. I'm not an expert.
I'm a researcher.
The whole idea.
I'm a researcher.
No, you're a legislator.
I'm a researcher.
The whole idea. You're a legislator.
I'm a researcher.
No, sir. Yeah, you research in cannabis. Into cannabis.
I can
research cannabis.
Areas.
Did you research cannabis?
No, I didn't.
So that's an area that will leave for experts. And the whole idea of public hearing in legislative process is to bring experts, expert witnesses, people who can contribute to the robustness of the law. And I think that issue, as germane as it is, we can only know whether it has been proven or not at the public hearing.
Perfect argument, Mr. Speaker. But I can come on this route. Coming on this route, Mr. Speaker, when you involve issues of a scientifically proven issue, Mr. Speaker, there are certain documented evidence policy through the Science Council of Nigeria, where these issues are generated. Just like when you want to establish a very big institution. Mr. Speaker, the question is that the executive and the legislature will come on issues of funding before you establish such. So that's the route I want us to go. But if we decide to pass through this route, it's also not totally bad.
All right. Honorable Abonta.
Excellency, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, I have a very different approach to this matter. And my take is first looking at the constitutional provision of what a government and what a responsible government should do. First is to protect the life, property, and protecting life, the good health of our people is very important. And putting them in a very sound mind matters a lot. We're all aware, sir. I think there's no part of this country today, if you look at the number of youths on the streets, the frustration they are going through leads them to a lot of the things that are normally should have been controlled. And part of the frustration that leads them to participate is drug abuse. And I have a lot of fear that when we try to, by any chance, legalize in the name of sorting out issue of cancer, I don't know how many Nigerians have cancer. I want to say that my daughter was contracted with cancer at a very young, tender age. And I know there are a lot of other herbal treatment that could be done. Among them, soursop is a very good cure for cancer, the leaves, the fruit, which if we really mean, and it has international support. She was treated in Ghana, a cancer center, and I believe they were the first to bring our attention as to what we should go to buy, not to go and look for cannabis. Cannabis, you know, has a lot of import in terms of their health. It is a kind of drug that as you start taking, once you get addicted, it has a lot of impact. And for you even to clear a person that is under that kind of situation, it takes a lot of time. Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, as of today, we do not have first the statistics of the Nigerians who are having cancer. Two, what kind of situation we could do in terms of curing. But we have, in large number, there is no constituency, and I repeat, there is no constituency that does not have a very chunk of more than 50% of prostituted youth around the streets of Nigeria. And we should be guided, sir. My take, I want to appeal to my colleagues and my brother who is sponsoring this bill, that it's not a time for it in Nigeria to go towards that direction. No matter the economic benefit, we should be careful as to what to do. Sir, you need to go around here, town, we say, just behind SAS division. If you are around that there in the evening, the people you see them there, all they are going there is to buy drugs. Today, drugs abuse in Nigeria have come to the extent that even the Messiah or those who are selling tea on the street, they have different formulas for drug abuse. And I believe any attempt to allow this will further compound the situation of drug abuse by Nigerians. And I think as responsible citizens and country and leaders, we should be mindful of how to clean the society of those evils rather than bringing and compounding. I want to believe that there may be economic benefit, but my brother Kalu is a very responsible person. He may not have looked at the other side in terms of the consequences in our country. And I want to beg that instead of putting the question that he step down the bill, at least for further research and consultation, that will help us. But for now, sir, I do not think it is right. We are just back from campaign. You have seen the number of youths who carry dangerous weapons. They could have done that without the help of drugs, and that is exactly what I'm calling that we should look have a second look. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, but yes, don't you think that the fact that drugs is being abused, licenses must be issued?
Sir,
it's like arms. It's like proliferation of arms. We give licenses so that it's not abused. It's like alcohol in any society. You give licenses, bars licenses to sell alcohol. Otherwise, if you just open it up, we are aware that these things are being abused. What do we now do about it? Do we just fold our arms? Is either you ban or you regulate. And so that's what I think the Honorable Ben is trying to do.
No, sir, beyond that, sir. Alcohol is already regulated in terms of who to buy, who to sell. Is regulated, yes, sir. Even the light arms and the weapons. But you know, sir, today in the face of this country, because of that little license that's given, that is why there was a prolonged fight, and up to today we have not been able to solve.
of insurgency in Nigeria. How do these people get these arms? It's from the same source of those who are having the license to sell the arms that are selling them because they have the license. But what is the intent and what do they use for? One may be to protect their own self, but those who are buying arms in Nigeria, 70% of them are against the state, against the citizens of the country, who are very peaceful in terms of kidnapping, armed robbery, banditry. This is why we have courage and barrage for that. And Your Excellency, sir, that license have not stopped. Because of profession, what is happening from Libya, Nigeria is a very fertile soil. Anywhere you plant cannabis, it will work. And before you know it, you will turn the country into a drug baron country. And I want you to refer to the example of what happened for the fight against drugs that America fought. Where? Colombia. Let us not take our country to Colombia, sir. It will not be fine. It will not be good for us. They claim for licensing to regulate, will not regulate, but rather it will compound the issue. I have given you just example of what has happened from the light weapons. Go through the street. Go to areas that we have had conflict. When they are turning in the arms, you will wonder where the arms are coming from. Communities sending arms in the number of maybe 400 or 500 arms in a very small community. That has happened. We have seen it. So, and I want to beg that. Yeah. It may not be a good excuse, sir.
So the argument is that in a society where whether drugs, whether arms are prevalent, the argument then will be that issuing licenses will only make it worse, as opposed to, and it's easier to just allow it. It's easier to just allow it without any licensing. That's the argument those who are opposing are making. I find it very difficult. I find it very difficult to wrap my head around the fact that there's an issue, there's a social malaise, and licensing these things will have a negative effect. Let me draw your attention, Osai, because you're talking about read up on the single Convention on Narcotic Drugs Treaty of 1961, which allows countries to make regulations for this purpose. We're signatory to that. So read it up.
I represent Martin Mogononganzai, Federal Constituency of Borno State. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the very foundation of this bill is faulty. The foundation of this bill is faulty in the sense that this bill is appropriating and reprobating at the same time. The bill is speaking from both sides of the mouth, in the sense that from one angle, this bill is seeking to decriminalize the use of cannabis. Then, on the second breath, this bill seeks to regulate the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes. While on the third breath, this bill seeks the regulation and then the issuance of license for the consumption of cannabis. So, Mr. Speaker, if you look at these three issues that are embedded in this bill is inherently contradictory. It speaks from both sides of the mouth. At the end of the day, which aspect of the bill are we passing? Are we passing the aspect that decriminalizes the use of cannabis, or the regulation for medicinal use, or regulation and issuance of licenses for use of cannabis? So, Mr. Speaker, from the very foundation of this bill, it is faulty, and therefore it should not go for second reading until these very fundamental issues are sorted out, so that members will not be misled to passing this bill. To which one are we passing? So these are very, very fundamental issues that need to be sorted out before we proceed further. Then on the general argument of whether this bill should go for second reading or not, I am completely opposed to the second reading of this bill on the ground that, one, the medicinal aspect of cannabis has not been established for now. It has not been established. Though Mr. Speaker has proposed an argument that experts will come during the course of the public hearing to determine whether it is used, there is use for it medicinally or not. So, Mr. Speaker, I am totally opposed for this, to the second reading of this bill on the ground that cannabis should be completely banned in our country. Thank you.
I speak for the people of Isi Alamba, now Onimo, Okigwe Federal Constituency. I am from Imo State. The bill was actually that to help with the to establish control with NDLEA on the growth, licensing, and use of cannabis for medicinal purposes only. It came for first reading, but it took a long time to list the second bill, the second reading. But having been called, I'd like to lend my voice to the issues being discussed. Whilst we have seen that there are wide benefits of the use of CBD, but I can see that the areas of concern now is when it comes to abuse. Even over the counter, over the shelf, you could get products from CBD oil for beauty care, for medicinal uses, for cancer, seizures, and pain, and all of those. What has become the underlying factor now is the abuse. But I'd like to also bring it to the fore that the traits of the seed cannabis we are talking about is the non-psychoactive. It's not the tetrahydrocannabinoid, which is psychoactive. Now, going back to the issue of control is where we have the problem. And I can see the mindset and the reactions of colleagues has been on the area of control. But the issue of control, what don't Nigerians abuse? Even Coca-Cola, even Panadol, and most drugs that have been abused now cannot be brought close to the cannabis. So in the interest of the whole house, and to ensure that we get the best out of what is needed to ensure that Nigeria joins the league of others who are enjoying from the benefits of this at the right time. This is obviously a very good bill, but it might be coming at the wrong time. So I would, in the interest of better legislative research, seek that we step it down for further consideration and until when we arrive for this. I so move.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this very important debate. In the first instance, I would like to appreciate the hard work Honorable Ben has put into this thing. He's a very versatile researcher, and I've had personal engagement with him on this issue in the past. However, Mr. Speaker, I have issues with the title of this bill. To me, it appears we have two bills lumped together, because yesterday we talked about consolidating these two bills. I believe, Mr. Speaker, with the experience, your experience, and the experience of members, honorable members, we need to understand that we need to separate these two bills. The reason is simple. One, we need to first decriminalize this cannabis. As we speak today, cannabis is illegal possession and cultivation. If we are trying to put two bills together to achieve decriminalization, at the same time empowering an agency to cultivate, I think it's oversimplification of our laws and procedure. I think the first thing to do, Mr. Speaker, is to guarantee, is to exhaustively debate decriminalization. We must first of all debate on this floor to make sure cannabis is illegal. When we achieve that, then the bill to empower an agency to issue licenses can now proceed.
Okay.
On the second note, Mr. Speaker, I know that it is really very appealing for a few speakers who have spoken about cannabis, why we must cultivate it for medicinal purposes. I want to quickly point out the cannabis that is medicinal is on the sativa, is on the whole plant itself. As a country today, we lack pharmaceutical companies that can process this volatile oil from these very popular plants. That's the first thing. So, in essence, if at this stage in our development, we approve plantations of cannabis, what we are doing is to actually be dealing with the whole plant itself. Medicinally, it is the volatile oil in cannabis that is used in treating ailments. There's no way we can purify and isolate it at this time. On the second instance, I think we lack regulatory agencies at this state of our social, political, and economic development that will monitor that if somebody planting cannabis is given an acre, that he will not plant 20 acres. Our history will lack regulatory agency who can safeguard the ills and the side effects and associated ills with this product. So I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, this has been a robust debate, I must say. And to say that I didn't expect it, will be living in denial. It's a hot issue which I'm sure will take time before Nigerians begin to embrace the core intent behind that proposal. Having said that, like you rightly pointed out, yesterday we had an issue here which borders on whether or not the bill of Oshoba and mine should go for consolidation, should go on as consolidated. But it was brought to the fore through an order by my sister Miriam that hers also was supposed to be part of it. We met and we said, okay, it's either this bill goes on without hers or we join it together as consolidation, but she had to drop some aspect of her bill that conflicts with the intention of the initial proposal. When I saw it on the paper today, I don't think that job was well done to make sure that the synchronization of the first and the second one to reflect what we intended to do with the NDLA Act was properly packaged. But having said that, the mood of the House, because no one legislator makes law for himself or for the Parliament. This is the Parliament, Mr. Speaker. The mood of the Parliament is that more jobs should be done on this, the separation should be done, and then represented sometime in the future with a better package, with a better understanding. Mr. Speaker, based on that, and because we have so much respect for honorable colleagues, I wish to move that we step this bill down for now and later to review it. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and the House. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Ben Kalu. Bill is stepped down for further consultation.